Hello and welcome to this comparison. Today, I'm going to try out 3 stand mixers from different brands and price ranges to see if the most expensive one is the most efficient or if something more affordable does just as good a job. The first mixer in my selection is the Continental Edison. It cost me around 54 euros. Next, I'll try the Moulinex MasterChef Gourmet, which you can find for around 120 euros, and I'll finish with a must-have product, the KitchenAid Artisan, which goes for around 549 euros. That's 10 times more than the cheapest model. Let's start the comparison with the cheapest option, the Continental. I hadn't heard of this brand before, but found it during my research on the app. There were many positive reviews for this product on various sites, so I thought it would be a good point of comparison with the other models, so as usual, we'll do the unboxing together. Well, it's the lightest model, the box isn't very heavy. For this price, it's not really a surprise, honestly. The design looks a bit vintage, but I think it's pretty nice. I think it fits well in most. As you can see, it comes with suction cups that will help keep it in place. It comes with a lid for the bowl, and in terms of accessories, there's a small hook, a kind of paddle, and of course, a whisk. And on the technical side, it has 800 watts of power with 10 speed levels. With a little detail that I particularly appreciate, there are pictograms that show us which levels to use depending on the accessories. Now, all that's left is to try it out, and to do that with each mixer. First, I'm going to try to whip some egg whites and time how long it takes to get a good result. So, I'll start by inserting my whisk. There we go, perfect. And I'm going to pour 3 egg whites into the 4.3 liter bowl. Now I can lower my mixer and I'm going to try to whip them at maximum speed without using any sugar. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, well listen, it's working pretty well. In just over 2 minutes and 20 seconds, we got stiff egg whites with no liquid at the bottom, so that's a success. Well, as you could see for yourself, there are still some negative points. Not only is it not very stable, but on top of that, it's quite noisy. Now, to go further and test all the accessories, I'm making short crust pastry, so I'll attach the flat beater, or what looks like it. I'm going to pour 200 grams of flour into my bowl, as well as 100 grams of butter at room temperature. So, as you can see, it's relatively soft. I'll lower everything down and we'll go ahead. Mix everything together at speed 2 until you get a crumbly texture. After all, that's the idea. Wow, it's coming out of the mixer. No. Well, it's a bit of a mess here, simply because I forgot to put the lid on. Honestly, it can be pretty useful to avoid getting flour everywhere. And honestly, I got mixed up with the button. Since it's facing you and not me, I couldn't see what I was doing. Anyway, it's not a big deal. We'll start over. Anyway, there's no timer here, so let's go. It comes up pretty abruptly. I put my sheet back and we're off again. So here, what interests me is to see if we're going to get something homogeneous or not. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. We've got our crumbly texture now. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar and we're off for another round. Honestly, the machine noise is much more acceptable. Okay, that should be good for this part. Let's see if it's well mixed or not, and the answer is yes. I don't see any chunks at all. It's well blended. To finish the dough, all that's left is to remove the paddle, put on the dough hook, and add an egg. Alright, I'll let you listen here. But you can tell the motor is struggling a bit. The more the dough comes together, the harder it gets. I'm going to stop here because I think we've got our result. Well, look at that. We've got a nice smooth dough. There's nothing to say. The mixer does the job. Now we just have to see what the other two have to offer. We're now going to move on to the Moulinex MasterChef Gourmet, which is priced at 125 euros. That's just a little bit more than what I paid a few days ago. And if we compare it to the first model, this one has 1100 watts of power and 8 speed levels. Alright, let's open this together and see. Of course, we have the manual. Here we have the first accessory, which is a flat beater, and it looks pretty sturdy. Next, we have the dough hook, which also seems to be good quality. Honestly, you can immediately see the difference compared to the first model. We also have a lid, and the machine itself is right here, so everything is well protected. That's nice. Here we have the whisk, which also looks pretty good, and the stainless steel bowl has a capacity of 4.6 liters. And as you can see, the design of the mixer is really similar to the first model we tested, but the quality of the finish seems much better. Now, all that's left is to test its efficiency. So, just like before, I'll start by whipping up some egg whites and we'll see how long it takes. So again, with 3 egg whites, but without sugar. I'll close it up and here we go. So, are we good? Yes, I have my egg whites whipped. Wow, I need to lift it all the way up, and this time it took me less than a minute. So, once again, we have no residue at the bottom. And as you can see, it's really super firm, okay? So, as you noticed, it's faster than the first model at whipping egg whites. But it also has the advantage of not shaking and not making a lot of noise. Honestly, it's off to a good start. Now we'll see how it does with the short crust pastry. For the short crust pastry, I'll install the paddle attachment. I'll pour in my 200 grams of flour and my butter. This time, I won't forget to put the lid on, and here we go. I think it wasn't properly attached. All right, I'll get it started. Power level 2, just like earlier. Okay, so strangely, I feel like it's not picking up the flour from the sides, and as you can see, there's still some butter stuck. It's a shame, but at least we can see the difference. I'll take this opportunity to add my sugar and we'll get going again. I think I won't need the lid this time since it's pretty thick. So in the recipe I'm following, they clearly say to just use a paddle attachment. So it should work with this one, but right now it's a bit tricky. I have to step in every time to make sure it's mixed well. We'll still manage to get a good result, but it's not as easy as with the €50 model. I'll quickly try the whisk to see if it makes a difference. Okay, so actually with this attachment, it's more effective. Now all that's left is to add our egg with the hook, so let's go ahead and do it. And here is our short crust pastry, which once again is nice and smooth. Okay, so personally, I find this Moulinex more pleasant to use than the first model, both in terms of sound and vibrations. And I think it's more durable. In any case, it seems a lot sturdier. When it comes to preparations, it's faster for whipping egg whites. But as for the short crust pastry, honestly, you get to the same result pretty quickly. So is the price difference justified? Honestly, I want to say yes. Let's move on. That's why it's useful to set up alerts for this one to be informed when the price drops. When you want to buy something that's not exactly cheap, let's open the box. Well, this is by far the most satisfying box, more pros. To finish, it's the dough to finish, the selection is also satisfying, short crust pastry, and to finish, the selection. The others had plastic. So, we start with a large sheet that shows all the accessories that exist. That's also one of the advantages of this product. It's really modular and the robot itself is right here. As you can see, the design is really iconic. It hasn't changed much in recent years, and honestly, it's still up to date. That's what makes it an incredible product, I have to say. It comes with a metal blade, but this time it's painted, a hook, of course, a whisk, and also a second blade. This time, it has a rubber part that can scrape off anything stuck to the sides of the bowl. So, in theory, we won't have the same problem as with Moulinex, and we also have 2 different bowls, with the largest one holding 4.8 liters. As you can see, you can stack them to save space. And on the technical side, the machine has a power of 300 watts, so less than the other 2. But I guess that's a good thing, since it uses less power and also has 10 speed levels. And here we go, all that's left is to test it. I'm installing my whisk, I'll do this in the small bowl, and here we go, let's whip all this up. So, are they whipped enough now? Oh no, I'm not sure if you can see, but there's still some egg white at the bottom of the bowl. It hasn't mixed in, which is strange. Let's keep going a bit longer. Okay, it looks well whipped now after about a minute and a half. Is there any liquid left at the bottom? No? Okay. I was a bit worried, but in the end, it worked well. We have something really firm, it just took a little longer than the Moulinex model. So, the most expensive one isn't always the most efficient. And as for the noise and vibrations, it's the same, I'd put it between the 2. Let's move on to the short crust pastry. So same thing, I add my flour, my butter. I push everything down and then I put the lid on. Well, it's an ultra-thin plastic. It feels a bit cheap. It's a bit strange for KitchenAid, but hey, we'll make do. Let's go. We'll see if the accessory works well. Oh, yes, I shouldn't go too hard. Oh, wow. That's so typical of Calvez. Well, good thing I put the lid on. There, at speed 2, it's better. Well, listen, it's scraping well on the sides and you can really see what's happening inside, so that's pretty positive. Now I'm gonna add my sugar. And here's the result. It's not bad, but we don't have as much of that crumbly texture as with the accessory that came with the first device. Again, maybe I should have used the paddle directly, and yet I'm following a recipe that specifically says to use the flat beater for this step. Anyway, let's move on. I'm adding my egg, and we'll be able to finish the preparation still on the second speed. This is strange, it's not coming together. It's definitely the hook we need to use. That's what we've done with the other mixers, so it should be right. I'll increase the power since it's not mixing much. Well, that's weird. I was expecting a more convincing result, but this is disappointing. Alright, I'm going to switch to the smaller bowl. Let's see what happens. I really hope that's the problem. Okay, let's get started again. Okay, that was a bit better, but it still had trouble reaching the dough at the bottom of the bowl. I don't know if it's because of its shape, but in any case, it's pretty strange. And here is the short crust pastry I got. Well, I'm not going to lie to you, I was expecting something much more efficient, especially at this price. So, sure, we have extra accessories, but in terms of user experience and value for money, I find the Moulinex much more interesting. It's up to you, depending on your technical and aesthetic criteria. But personally, if I had to buy one today, it would be the latter. And that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this comparison.